Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it. I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network.
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
Where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
Welcome to Truth Talk Live. This is Peter Rosenberger. Glad that you are with us. What a week this has been. It's going to be this way, I think, for some time, where it's just going to be slamming in the news of all the things that are going on. There's been quite a bit of activity coming from the new administration over picks for the cabinet, and I've been watching this with interest. I don't know if you guys are interested in this or not. A lot of people I find there are people that are like me that are kind of nerdy about this sort of thing, and it's just fascinating to see the system work and how it works and the people that are involved in the responses and so forth. And I've been looking at the bingo card so far and all these different names on there, and I want to see what you guys thought of some of these. Some of these people I kind of expected, and some of them have been rather surprising. And I thought, well, let's take the temperature and see kind of what folks are thinking about this. Like the border czar, for example. I don't know what they're going to actually call that, but Tom Homan. And, I kind of expected him. He's been a pretty tough guy for that role for some time, and he seems to really be the man for the job. And I didn't see Mike Huckabee being ambassador to Israel. I didn't see that, and I'm grateful for it. I've been on his show before, and he's been on mine, and a remarkable man, and I think that is I just didn't know that was even being considered for him, and I think he'll do a marvelous job. He certainly has a tremendous heart and love of Israel. And so what do you think of these things? I'll go through the names, but you weigh in on them. I'd like to hear what you have to say. 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348 7884. Now, if you're disappointed in some of these things, that's all right. I mean, some of these people I didn't even know, and I think that it's good to weigh in on this and see, and it's good for us to be involved to see who's running things and who in positions of power. And I think an educated populace is a powerful populace, and I think it's important for us to be involved with this. But I'd like to hear what you have to think. So 866-348. 866-34-TRUTH. The chief of staff was his first pick, was Susie Wiles, and I hear nothing but great stuff about her, that she's a very no-nonsense kind of lady. And I loved her dad, Pat Summerall, great football player, great announcer, and he and John Madden used to announce all the time together, and Pat Summerall, had that tremendous announcer voice, to the 40, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. He was great. He was Pat Summerall. I grew up with Pat Summerall's name being, a fixture. And so I looked at his daughter and I think, well, does she look like her dad? And she kind of does. You can see it. But she's, from what I hear, she's no nonsense, and that's a very important position in the chief of staff. I don't know the CIA director, John Ratcliffe. I don't know much about him. The Department of Government Efficiency, which up to this point, government efficiency seemed like an oxymoron to me. But I think with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy running that thing, I think maybe some things could happen. They've already been, I don't know if you follow them or not on X, but they have been putting out stuff that the government has been funding, crazy things of money that has just been going to stuff, and a lot of it pretty bizarre. I mean, transgender stuff and a lot of that kind of things that are just not necessary for the government to be funding our tax dollars. And I'm hoping that that's going to bring to light, sunlight's the best bleach, I think, of all, so that the government can cut out a lot of this waste that we're doing, because they're saying their goal is to try to cut $2 trillion of just waste. I hope they can do it. I don't know. Are you optimistic about that? I don't know. But I think if they cut out $100,000 worth of waste, I think that it's money well spent, because I don't think Elon's charging a salary, and I don't think Vivek is charging a salary. So whatever they cut out is just gravy to be, taken out of our tax budget that we pay for. I don't know the Deputy Chief of Staff. Let's see, there's the Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative Policy, James Blair. Don't know him. Stephen Miller. I don't know. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. She certainly has an interesting career. Is that a good pick for Trump? What are your thoughts on that? And then Lee Zeldin for the EPA. I thought he would have a position, but I didn't know that the EPA was necessarily a good match for him. And then Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, I did not see that one coming. I mean, that is a big position, and I did not see that coming. Pete Hegseth, a lot of people are saying he's just a Fox News host, that kind of thing, on a weekend host, and they're making fun of him for this. But he's got a pretty impressive resume. Here's one of the bigger ones, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, here's a guy that is pro-choice, in charge of the largest health agency in the country, and that's causing a bit of consternation for folks. And I appreciate his desire to get us healthy again as far as the food and pharmaceutical stuff that's going on. But we also need to be mindful that they're not bringing necessarily biblical principles to this, at least a strong biblical foundation. Are we okay with that? Is that good? What do we do? How do we watch this? What are your thoughts? I'm not surprised, but I do have questions. And then Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. There are a lot of these guys he's pulling out of Congress, and I'm kind of wondering, can they get the congressional elections to fill those positions quick enough so that they don't have a big turnover in the House? I have no idea. And if you are not a Trump supporter, that's okay. What are your thoughts on these as well? I mean, these are interesting picks that you got. And then, of course, Matt Gaetz for the Attorney General. And that one caused people to be apoplectic, I think. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to unpack this. Got a few things I want to throw out to you as well. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is Truth Talk Live, 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. This is Peter Rosenberger, and we are so glad that you're here. It's Friday afternoon. How do you feel on Friday afternoon? Are you ready to go home? Are you in traffic? Are you out the door? Or do you still have more time to go? And are you ready for the drive home? Are you ready for the weekend? If you want to be a part of the program, 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. We're talking about some of the appointments that Trump has made for his cabinet. It's kind of an interesting choice, some of them. I left off one or two. Doug Burgum, who's the governor of North Dakota, ran against Trump for president, and I thought he would be Secretary of Energy, but he's the Secretary of the Interior. So I would imagine he'll be coming out our way. We live out in southwest Montana, and Yellowstone is about 90 miles away. So I guess he'll be coming out this way and seeing things in this country and national parks and so forth. But the guy, from what I see, he's had a successful career in the energy industry and very, very smart guy. But every time I look at him, I can't help but think he looks like Eugene Levy. That's just me. What do I know? But anyway, those are some of the things. And if you want to weigh in on them, your thoughts, if you're concerned about them, if you have some questions, I may not be able to answer the questions, but we can explore them together, and love to hear your thoughts on it. 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. This is National Caregiver Awareness Month. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's a month that we recognize family caregivers. Many of you all are listening right now that are family caregivers. You're taking care of somebody. You've got an aging parent, a spouse with some kind of issue going on, a special needs child, a family member, whatever. There's so many different kinds of scenarios that people are facing, mental illness, addiction, and there's always a caregiver. And they don't necessarily identify themselves as a caregiver. I've been a caregiver now for 4 decades. I do a radio program for family caregivers. And in fact, I remember years ago, AARP asked me, well, what do you say to people who don't necessarily think of themselves as a caregiver? And, how do you help somebody know they're a caregiver if they don't think of themselves as a caregiver? And that struck me as kind of funny. And for whatever reason, I lapsed into my best Jeff Foxworthy impression and said, if you have a professional carpet cleaner on retainer, you're probably a caregiver, And they thought that was kind of funny. And they said, you ought to do this with Jeff and do a bit on this. And Jeff and I have been friends for many, many years. And so I called him up and I said, would you like to do this with me? And he said, sure, write out some jokes. I said, these aren't jokes. This is my life, Jeff. This is my life. So we got together, did that many years ago for National Caregiver Awareness Month. And we had different ones like if you can cook a turkey with dressing while changing a dressing, you're probably a caregiver. If let's see, what was another? Oh, he did one that busted me up because my wife is missing both legs. She has 2 prosthetic legs. And Jeff, this was on the outtakes of it, but it still busted me up. He said, if anybody's ever seriously asked you, baby, have you seen my left leg? And I just, that just busted me up. And then I did one that said, if you've ever hooked up your wife's wheelchair to your dog just to see if it would work. And he looked at me and said, really? And I have footage of that I really did hook up Gracie's. We had a wonderful Australian dog, shepherd, and we hooked him up to her wheelchair. And I got footage of her, and she's screaming down the street with it. She was safe. We kept her safe the whole time, but we had a good time with it. But we wanted people to know that it's okay to, number one, to laugh. And, that life is what it is. And if you're in the hospital, this Thanksgiving, by the way, it's okay. We spent there. Last year we spent Christmas, New Year's, my wife's birthday, and Valentine's Day in the hospital. We were there for 2 months. We're going to be back again next year at the first of the year for another 2-month stretch. And we spent Thanksgiving and all kinds of holiday. Every major holiday we spent in the hospital at some point during this 4 decades journey. And we found that, life is what you make it. You can get upset about it. You can fight it, or you can accept and trust that God is there with you in it no matter what. And we had, I do an article every month in the Mature Living magazine put out by Lifeway. And I really appreciate them doing that. And we have this piece that's in there this month about what holiday was like last year, what Christmas was like last year, being in the hospital. And I think you'll like it. If you get the magazine, feel free to check it out. And if you don't, you can go out to Lifeway and their magazines and see. I think you could see it online, but I'm not totally sure about that. But we don't need to rail against those things. We do, because that's our human condition. But we can turn into those things and trust that God will meet us in that. And that's what we have found over the years. So for those of you who are caregivers right now, this is your month to be recognized. But I want you to know we recognize you every month. And I love being able to talk to my fellow caregivers. I've got if you go out to my website, peterrosenberger.com, there's a lot of stuff for you out there. There's a Caregiver 911 button. And if you're just struggling right now, if you're hurting, you don't know where to start, it's blinking, and I put it on there. And that's all brought to you by a wonderful company that I found called Peel-Aways. And they are a fitted sheet that has built-in chucks, liners into the sheet. So if you're taking care of an aging parent, a young man invented this, was taking care of his grandfather, and he was just having to change the sheets all the time. It's not a very sexy thing to talk about, but it's the reality for so many people. And he invented this thing, it's perforated. You just tear it off and you throw it away, and you got a clean one right underneath, and you just go on back to bed. You don't have to do it in the middle of the night. And you can see their ad there on the resources thing at my website. And you can mention my name, you get a special discount off of it. And I hope you'll take advantage of it. It's a wonderful thing to have instead of having to be at 2 a.m. change your. And they have it all the way for children too, for cribs, everything. And it's something I think you'll find very helpful if that's where you are as a caregiver right now with wound care or incontinence or whatever. Doesn't matter. There's always some kind of spill going on. And if you have that going on in your life, don't make your life harder. Make it a little easier. Healthy caregivers make better caregivers, and getting a good night's sleep is part of that. We've got quite a bit of things to talk about here in the next block. And I also wanted to ask you one last thing. Tomorrow night, I think, is it tomorrow night or tonight, the fight with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul? Is anybody going to watch that? Is anybody curious about that? I got to tell you, I'm pulling a little bit for Mike Tyson, because as a 61-year-old, I've kind of like to see that Mike Tyson at 60 has still got it. And I think he's got a pretty good shot at this thing. I've watched a little bit of the videos of him training, and it is, I wouldn't want to be in the ring with him, even as a young man. And Jake Paul's, he's in pretty good shape, but wow, Mike Tyson looked pretty sad. Did you see where they met and Mike Tyson smacked him and slapped him? I guess it's going to be an interesting fight. So I don't know if that's something you guys follow or not, but I'm kind of pulling for Mike on that one. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is Truth Talk Live, 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. This is Peter Rosenberger. Glad to have you with us. 866-348-7884. 866-34-TRUTH. If you want to weigh in on the program, I've got Mike in Ohio. Mike wants to. He's got a couple things he wants to weigh in on, but I'm going to start with your namesake, Mike Tyson. What do you think, Mike?
Well, my wife
Not that he's
called
your
me on my
namesake,
way
but
home to work. Yeah. But yeah, that's crazy. Is that my wife called me on the way home to work, and she asked me what I'm going to have for dinner, and I said I don't know, and I said I'm going to make some steak, and then she goes, Mike Tyson's fighting tonight. Would you want to watch that? I says, that's intriguing. That is crazy to watch this fight, because I watched it when I was young, and we can get it for free pay-per-view somehow. I don't know how. But anyways, we can watch it. So
you listen. If your wife calls you up on the way home from work and says you want to watch the Mike Tyson fight, you need to stop by the florist on the way home and get her some nice flowers and a beautiful card, and tell that woman that she is highly loved.
I know. She knew I would love to watch it, so she told me about it, and she's looking at me right now and smiling with ear to ear right now.
Well, she deserves. Did you pick up flowers for her?
No, I didn't.
Go back out. You still got time.
Steak tonight.
You got time. Go back out and get her some flowers, and
okay.
You do something nice for her, because any wife that calls up her husband, hey, you want to watch the Tyson fight tonight?
I know. I thought that was crazy, and you brought it up, and that's one of the reasons why I called. And
well, listen, what is her name?
Tammy.
Tammy, is she close by?
Yeah, she hears you.
Put her on the phone.
Look at her smile.
Put her on the phone.
Oh, she hears you.
Hello.
Tammy, you are a special lady. I will tell you that. I did not see that one coming. My wife called and said, "You want to watch the Tyson fight?" That's pretty spectacular, Tammy. Now, is he a good cook? If he makes these steaks tonight.
Yes, he's a very good cook.
My brother, Mike, I'm going to throw this out to you. My brother is a diplomat,
okay,
and he's served all over the Middle East, and he got me hooked on this. He puts cinnamon and cayenne pepper on his steaks.
Oh, I would love it, but my wife.
I tried it. It was really good.
Oh, it sounds great to me. I'm a taste of all that. I might put that on mine tonight just because of you. But I will have to put light salt on my wife's and a little bit of pepper and a little bit of plainness. And she likes it plain. She will not like any spice on hers. But
the woman likes a Tyson fight, so I think you've got a winner here. You've married way above your weight class there, buddy. And
you ain't kidding.
Well, tell me what your question. Let's talk about your question about caregivers.
Yeah, I got a neighbor next door. He's in the 96, and his wife is 94. And her daughter comes over all the time, and it helps them constantly. I mean, cutting the grass, helping them out, and I help out all the time. I have a key to their house. With my neighbor, I've helped him many times get where he couldn't get in his walker, or he couldn't do this or couldn't do that. I helped him he hurt his knee the other day and he couldn't get on the wheelchair. I'm looking at her, and I'm feeling so sad that she has to do everything that she has to do for her parents. And you're an expert at this, and I know that. And my question is what kind of advice should I give her? Should she continue caring for her parents in the house and not put them in a helpful home, or she should and we talk about God, and I definitely talk about God to the me. I talk about God to them, and I pray for them all the time, and I've been over there and I helped them get them in a wheelchair and done different things, and I cut their grass, and I do quite a few, and I am not bragging on myself, but I'm really concerned about her daughter, her going.
I tell you what, I have some thoughts. Number one, keep doing what you're doing, because it is helping. Number two, you're not really in a position to give her advice, particularly if it's unsolicited. But what you can do is give her a copy of my book. And it's called A Minute for Caregivers. When Every Day Feels Like Monday. They're 1-minute chapters. What this book does is it helps caregivers walk a little further back away from the cliff so they can catch their breath a little bit and take a knee if they have to. And then they can approach whatever decisions that she has to make from a more anchored spot as opposed to reactive spot. The best thing you can do is just be there like you're doing, and just being gracious and kind. And caregivers often don't know what to do, and she may be wrestling with a lot of guilt or fear or obligation. I call it the fog of caregivers: fear, obligation, and guilt. She may be wrestling with a lot of things. Don't know. Yeah. But the best thing you can do is just continue to be a great neighbor. And,
I am.
Put this copy. I tell people, if you don't know what to say to a caregiver, don't worry about it. I do. And just put this in her hands. It's 4 decades of hard-won experience. Advice is not something, and advice and opinions are not really.
Amazon?
It's wherever books are sold, and advice and opinions are. They're not really.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
they're not the thing, but experience is. And experience is what people need to see. Okay, somebody's been there, and I'm just one beggar who found bread, and I'm going to tell other beggars where the bread is.
Exactly.
And I think that's the best place to start. And at my website, you've got peterrosenberger.com. You got Caregiver 911, and there's a blinking button right there, and she could start there if she wants to. You could push it to her that way. But I would just say, hey, look, I've talked to this guy on the program. He's got quite a bit of experience. I thought this may be helpful. And this book is so simple. I mean, each chapter you could literally read in 1 minute, and she's probably a very busy lady. And I did it very simply. So that's a good place to start. Now, last thing, I got a couple things here you want to hit. Trump's choices, and we got just a few minutes here. Weigh in on that.
Mike Huckabee. I am so glad. I follow Mike Huckabee on Newsmax and a little bit sometimes. I've been always a fan of him. I've always loved his demeanor and his passion for Israel. I think Israel is a biblical thing, in my opinion, and I love what Trump has done. I mean, some of the other picks. I mean, we need to pray for our president. That's for sure.
That's about as diplomatic an answer as I've ever heard, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but yeah.
No, that's a very diplomatic answer.
Yeah,
I'm like you though. I thought Mike Huckabee. I didn't even see it coming, but I'm absolutely full-throated support, standing up applauding, because Mike Huckabee, I know, will work hard to work with Israel and to promote a peaceful partnership with them and a supportive partnership from the United States. And I know he'll give. I think Bibi Netanyahu would probably is very appreciative of that tonight.
Yeah, I think so too. And my wife says she likes all her picks. I mean, she just told me I like all of them, and she's more opinionated about Trump than I am. But yeah, she really thinks that he's our savior, I guess. maybe I shouldn't have said that too much. Well, she gave me a frown when I said that.
Oh, I can. Okay, look, that Tyson fight is going to be the warm up to the next fight that I'm anticipating tonight. So somebody's in for a world of hurt tonight, and I don't know if it's Jake Paul or if it's Mike.
I know I shouldn't speak for her. I know, but she doesn't.
Mike, how long have you been married? How long have you been married?
39 years.
Okay, Mike, let me just say, at 39 years of marriage, you probably should have already figured out you should never speak for your wife.
Oh, I know. I'm so dumb.
Do you need to write that down somewhere?
No, I need to put it. Here, honey, just hit me on the shoulder.
I'm not advocating tattoos, but you might want to put this one in a prominent place on your body somewhere. So don't speak for my wife. Hey, listen, thank you so much for weighing in on this, Mike. This is Peter Rosenberger. This is Truth Talk Live, 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. This is Peter Rosenberger. Glad to have you with us. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH, peterrosenberger.com. I wanted to share something with you that I put out this week on my Substack page, and I thought it might be meaningful to some of you all today. Substack is, you can go to caregiver.substack.com or Peter Rosenberger under Substack, and I have a whole library of things that you can check out. But this is every Monday I put out an excerpt from my book that I just recommended to Mike, A Minute for Caregivers When Every Day Feels Like Monday. And this is one of those 1-minute chapters that I put out every Monday. And you can go see, there's a bunch of them out there, and I hope you'll take advantage of it. They are just in time insights I've learned the hard way. I've never learned anything the easy way. And this is one I've called Putting a Treasure into a Broken Machine. And it really has implications beyond the whole caregiving world, but that's the world I live in. Years ago, while attending a weekly support group, I often purchased a soda from a nearby machine. All went swimmingly until one evening when the device failed to dispense the beverage. When disappointed, I called the service number and then joined the meeting. Despite not hearing from the machine's owner, I tried again at the following week's meeting. To my surprise, 2 soda cans rolled out, so I gave one to a friend. I felt like I broke even. A week later, I put coins again into the slot. Exasperated, I fussed at it, even shook the machine, but to no avail. The following week, I tried once more, but the machine prevailed. Those with impairments often can't act as they used to or as we would desire for them to. Expecting them to do so sets us up for disappointments and resentments. Coercing, yelling, or swearing remains futile. Yet, just like me putting coins into a broken machine, we continue placing our treasure, which is our self-worth and our hearts, into these broken vessels. Accepting the impairment and making a healthier choice for ourselves is the better path towards peace and contentment. We don't often want to accept certain things. We don't like it. And it's painful for us. And we strive against that. But in reality, it is what it is. And when we accept that and make healthy choices for ourselves, even though there's great sadness, we don't wish it to be this way. And acceptance doesn't mean agreement. It just means we're accepting reality for what it is. And we're going to grieve over it. You remember what Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." We can't be comforted. We're not mourning if we are striving, despairing, or raging. Yet we do that, don't we? I do. I don't know about you, but I do. I have, and I cringe over it. But it's when I accepted that this is really happening and this is the way it is. And that's when, and I turn to God with that, and I realize that's when his comfort does come. The tears we cry don't have to be tears of rage, and they don't have to be tears of despair. They can be tears of acceptance and grieving over it. There's a lot of sadness, and our Savior is acquainted with sadness. He says that in Scripture. He's a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. And I it's hard to imagine what Jesus looked like as he walked this earth, but I would imagine that there was a sadness to his face because he saw such heartache and such brokenness and such sin and such devastation. At one point he looked out on the crowds and he saw them. They came with all this afflictions, and he said he just groaned within him. And if we are trying to force something to change that we don't have the power to change, or force someone to change, it's no different me putting money in that machine. It's not going to work. It's broken. So what are my options? To keep putting money into it? Or to bring a bottle of water instead and do something that's healthy for me? It doesn't make me happy. Caregiver, of a loved one, and they're functioning as a caregiver. I just want to make mom happy. Well, that's really beyond our pay grade. We can't make somebody happy. That's up to them. They can be as happy as miserable as they choose to be. And I don't know that I even pursue happiness that much because it requires things that happen that make me feel good. And every single day of my life with Gracie, there's things that are not very pleasant that we have to deal with. 86 surgeries. That's a lot of surgery. And she's got 2 more right off the bat in the first of the year. And this has been going on since Reagan was president. So what does happiness look like in a context like that? But we can be healthier. We can do things today that are going to be healthy. I can do things, something right now that's healthier. I could drink water instead of soda. I could put down a candy bar and pick up an apple, or, those kinds of things. I can go for a walk. I can spend some time in prayer. I can just be still and settle my heart down. That's a healthier place. If we don't take time for stillness, we're going to have to make time for illness. You see where I'm going with this? And so I don't know what's going on with you, but as we go into the holiday season, it's usually a frenetic time. The days are shorter. People get a little bit more cranky, and it gets a little chill in the air. And then the holidays, we feel this pressure to be able to make something happen. So we capture the sentiment of it. And, nostalgia, it ain't everything it used to be. And we don't have to do these things to make a good Thanksgiving. We can be thankful no matter what. Like I said in the earlier blocks, even if we're in the hospital, been there, done that. And last year when we were in the hospital for Christmas, we had the best decorated hospital room on the floor, on the neuro floor there in Denver. And I brought a keyboard in, had stockings hung up, I had Christmas tree lights, a little tiny Christmas tree, and then all the lights around the room. And when she came out of ICU and went into a regular room, she came in. I had I had it done. And we had friends there that would come and we'd sing Christmas carols, and I don't know how many people have brought a keyboard into a room. We were there for 2 months, so you got to make the best of it. And in this article that I wrote in Mature Living, you'll see that I went down to the lobby and would play the piano on the way out sometimes just to play. I thought I was just playing for the security guard, but I looked up and there were patients lined up with their families, and some of them holding IV poles and so forth on the balcony from the second floor looking down at the atrium there, and they were singing along with me, Silent Night and other things. And I realized, you know what, we have an opportunity wherever we go, whatever's going on, even if it's a holiday that we'd rather be at home sitting by the fire with family and friends and watching the game or whatever, but wherever we are, we can be thankful. And wherever we are, we can give glory to God. And we're going to find ourselves in places that are not as ideal. And some may have an empty chair this year at Thanksgiving. We will at our home. But you know what? We can also give such appreciation to God for what he has done, knowing that the troubles of this world for us as believers are as close to hell as we're going to have to get. But there are a lot of people out there that the blessings of this world are as close to heaven as they're ever going to get. And that fills me with a sense of urgency to make sure I'm properly communicating the gospel to people, to let them know that we have a Savior. So as we go into this Thanksgiving season, it's Caregiver Awareness Month, there are a lot of things going on. Remember during COVID, they would always say things like, during these uncertain times, when have they ever been certain? I mean, honestly, when have they ever been certain? But God is certain. And we can place our trust in him. Our hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. The blood that was shed for the remission of sin, to pay the penalty of sin, and his righteousness that was imputed to. We imputed our sin. He imputed our sin to him, and then he imputes his righteousness to us. That double imputation. And because of that, we have so much to be thankful for. What a treat, what a blessing that is. And so in this article, we sometimes will try to put our treasure into a broken machine, like I did with that soda machine. And I put a quote at the end of one of those chapters, and the quote at this one, it was an anonymous quote I found somewhere. Sometimes expectations can be embryonic resentments. And when we expect someone to perform in such a way or do such a thing that we want them to do or they should be able to do, but they can't. Maybe they won't, but most of the time they can't. It becomes embryonic resentments. And, life is hard enough. We don't need to live with resentments. We don't need to let that grow. Let those expectations go, and instead, let's put our treasure where? Where did Jesus say? Store up your treasure where? In heaven, where thieves and rust and moths cannot corrupt this. And there's a wonderful song written by singer-songwriter Gary Chapman. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. Treasure. It says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. There's a treasure at the end of this narrow road I'm traveling. It gives me a reason to live, and it's a great song. Go Google it, look it up. It's a great song, and I've always loved it. He wrote it 40-something years ago, and I've loved it ever since. And it reminds me to place my treasure in Christ. And then you'll find that the things of this earth, like the old hymn writer said, the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glorious grace. Isn't that great news? Isn't that the thing that is going to settle our hearts down as we go into what can often be a stressful time for many people? Thanks for taking the time on this. You can go out and see more at peterrosenberger.com, and I hope you'll take advantage of the things I have out there for you, books and blog posts and music and all this stuff. Gracie's got a song that's going to drop on Monday that you're going to love. It's called Thankful. You're going to love this. Go to my website for more information on that. And we will see you next time. Go Mike Tyson.
Another program powered by the Truth Network.